Okay, we're getting ready for a wine dinner here, and it's right after Thanksgiving. I'm here with Tony Verdoni, the professor of all things, especially Italian wine, right?
I'll go along with that.
You'll go along with that?
Yeah.
You know, Tone, I love the holidays, and I think it's important for us to tell our viewers about the Italian holiday tradition and about how they put together a meal.
Yeah.
And we've been in Italy during the holidays, and it's truly outstanding event. You know, every evening is an event.
That's true.
You know?
And they actually do put together a meal. It's not just a buffet.
No,
You know, that's the Russian style, they used to call that. Put all the food out and let the people take what they want. But they don't do that.
Yeah, this is like an escalating drama or a beautiful opera. Every course of food, every wine is selected to escalate the evening, to get the mouth salivating, to make it better, to make the next course better, and then it slowly crescendos down to a finish. And it's kind of like, it's like a beautiful movie or an opera, you know?
It sure is. It's quite a production.
And, you know, the Italians add courses. They have a lot of courses, you know. Most places it's antipasti, primi, secondi, formaggi, dolci, but they could add other courses and they make names up. I think they just like to drink a lot of wine.
I think they like to drink a lot of different wines because they usually have a different wine with each course.
And that's what we're going to do today. It's a daunting task to pair wines and food, and people get, you know, they get nervous, but you don't have to get nervous. We're going to give them some simple go-to tips to pair with the typical Italian meal. So antipasti, what might that include?
Well, one of the big things to include are sort of the cured meats, which Italy's very famous for: prosciutto, bresaola, put some cheeses out there also, some salamis. And for a wine, use something like a Prosecco. Prosecco goes very well with appetizers.
Yeah.
They're easy to prepare. You can prepare those appetizers in advance. Guests come at different times, so it's very informal. It's a nice way to start.
Kind of gets the palate going.
Absolutely.
And if you didn't have a Prosecco, you could use a Soave from the Veneto,
Yeah.
a crisp Chardonnay from Val d'Aosta,
Yeah.
any of those non-oaked,
Yeah.
very acidic, crisp, fresh wines.
Yeah. A couple of wines just come to mind. First of all, Friulano, which is made from the Tokai grape. It's an area where they produce prosciutto, San Daniele, and Tokai Friulano, white wine, goes very well with prosciutto. You could even use a fizzy red like Lambrusco, authentic Lambrusco, which cuts into the fattiness of those meats and really provides a good foil for them.
Yeah, and we were just in Alto Adige and we had some speck, and what did they serve us?
That's right. With spec, they gave us some reds and whites.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they gave us reds based on Schiava, and they gave us whites. Sylvaner, other whites as well.
Right.
You can't miss.
And you know what's interesting about Italy, and take this into mind and kind of use it as your guide to make it your own, because in Italy, you've told me, and now I've found the proof, that every 10 kilometers Italy changes.
True.
The bread you have in one little town is a little bit different in the next town.
That's right.
And the same thing's true for salami and wine and cheeses, right?
That's absolutely right. Different varietals, different wines, from different special places, 10 kilometers apart.
Right. So it's very localized.
Very
so
local.
do the local stuff, go to the fresh market and make a nice antipasto, pick a nice white wine, a champagne, a prosecco, or a nice fresh white wine that's unoaked. You can ask your local liquor store or go online, or you know, do a little research, do a little Google, and you'll find the white wine for that. The next wine, I say, we have to add a little salinity, a little minerality, and the Italians call that next course primi. And it might include risotto, polenta, a pasta dish, and again, it's territorial. Make it your own. Go for it. Get in the spirit, you know?
That's right. That's right. You almost can't miss. You know, it's a primo, but it's not a primo because we already had anti-primo. We had antipasta.
Correct.
But primo means first course, and the Italians don't eat pasta as an entree. They have it as a first course. They have a secondo after that. And what I love about pasta is you can prepare it so many different ways, and there are so many different shapes, which are all affiliated with specific geographic areas.
Right.
Like orecchie, are from Puglia.
Right.
Fusilli are from around the Naples area. And the sauces that you pick make it even more wonderful, because you can have almost any sauce, especially around Christmas Eve. You might want to have seafood sauce.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you could go with a nice mineral-laden white.
Right.
With that.
And like I could suggest, we just were up in Alto Adige. We had the Turlon Pinot Bianco, great minerality, nice acidity, a little oak aging. You might go to Friuli to a Yermont Dreams, an oak aged Chardonnay,
bigger,
right? A little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Or if we're going for red, a Barbera from Odero or one of the great producers, or even a Dolcetto. At this point, depending. And for me, I would do a little risotto with grilled porcini, a little really nice olive oil. And I think I would go red, and I might open a beautiful bottle of Odero Barbera in honor of Maria Cristina and my good friend Isabella.
Good. You could even do a dolcetto, something like Vietti's dolcetto, Dolcetto d'Alba, or Dolcetto di Dogliani, which is a newly discovered area for very good dolcetto.
Yes, I agree, and those are all awesome choices. And next comes the main course. They call it Segundi, the second course. And they might eat a course in between and they come up with a name. The Segundi, I call it the 3 Bs. It's got to be a Barolo, a Brunello, or a Bulgari Rosso. It's got to be a little bit older. It's got to have some age. It's got to have some depth. It's got to be complex. It's got to be able to go with those dishes like ossobuco, bistecca, salsiccia, brissato. Those are the things that we want to eat with those kind of wines.
Those are killer bees, by the way. Those are wines that develop in the bottle. If you're fortunate to have one that's 7 years old or 10 years old, that makes it even better. But those are really highlight wines, because the Secondo is the highlight of the meal now. You're at the climax. Yeah, at this point.
We're right there now. Yeah. And you know what I say? When you're serving that wine and you're having that holiday meal, let everybody stop, take a sip of the wine, take a taste of that mouth-watering food that you made, and see how much better everything tastes when you have Italian wine and food. They go together, and it's important to tell your guests that, because it really makes an impact.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too, you were talking about courses. I never realized this because I was raised the way we're talking. We always used to apportion meals. But a lot of my friends, when they went to Italy for the first time, they said, hey, you know, they don't have salads first. They have salads toward the end of the meal. And of course, no wine I would recommend with a salad. But for mouth cleansing, good acidity, and a nice salad, comes later in the meal. It doesn't come as the first thing in the meal.
Yeah. And you know what, those big B's I like to put on the show. Lights, camera, action. Decant that baby. Show them some action, because when the camera and the lights and the action's rolling, everything tastes better. It's the holidays. Get in the spirit. I mean, put the Santa hat on if you have to. I don't care.
That's right.
Come on, it's a show. To have fun.
But how do you follow that act? What do you do at that point?
How do you follow that act?
I have a few ideas.
Well, we're going to get there, but I think after we got through that, I think we go to the cheese course. And with the cheese course, it's got to be something soothing, kind of a wine of meditation, something that's a little out there that might be a little too much for food but can stand the cheese. And I don't drink a lot of this wine. I take a few sips. You know, if we have 8 people at a table, a bottle is the appropriate amount. So we have a small glass of that, and I might pick an Amarone from the Veneto, or I might pick a Lagrein from Alto Adige, or maybe a Fiano, a white wine from Sicily that's a little sweet, but finishes dry. It has that sweet fruitiness in your mouth.
Something similar to an Amarone, a Sforzato from Lombardy, very close to the border of Switzerland. It's made with dried grapes, dried Nebbiolo grapes, just as the Amarone is made with dried local grapes, mostly Corvina Veronese grapes. And these are wines of meditation. These are wines you can drink on their own. And cut into the fat of the cheeses. And Italy is great for cheeses, by the way. You know, we think of France for cheeses, but Italy has wonderful cheeses. Local cheeses, Asiago, Taleggio, Parmigiano Reggiano, Grana Padano, hundreds of others. So there's a bevy of cheeses in there.
Right. And I think the final chapter is the dessert wine. It's enchanting. It's the last thing we remember. It's usually sweet. And again, it's small sips, and with that dessert, a piece of chocolate, or even a biscotti, a cookie.
Yeah.
That's sweet, and all of the regions make these sweet dessert rinds. You know,
Yes.
you have ricciotto and passito, and from all over the 20 regions of Italy. And there's some great sweet wines, and they're usually in a smaller format bottle. Why? Because we drink much less of that.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice way to end a meal.
It really is, and again, the sweet wines are from all over Italy. They're both red and white. There are a lot of choices. I'll throw just an oddball at you, which would be pretty difficult to find, but it's worth a search if you can. With chocolate, I love Barolo Chinato, which
You made me taste that.
Yeah, it's a Barolo wine that has quinine in it, so it's almost like a digestive. So, and it would be very interesting with chocolate.
It was very interesting, and I think Prestomatic was there at that wonderful dinner that we had. Our cameraman and editor, and he had some Barolo Chinato with us, right?
Chinato.
And you know what the last thing is? It's very important, and I figured it all out today. I figured out, as I was writing this little thing up for you and I tonight, I figured out Italy's economics, and I figured out my problems, all in one. My big problem is when I get to a meal like this, and most Italians are the same way, you should bring your pillow to dinner, because after that it's nap time.
Take a nap.
And most Italians after a meal like that do take a nap. And it's also, I think, the reason for the economic problems in Italy is nobody really wants to work. They'd rather eat and drink and take a little nap,
Wow.
and they don't want to go back to work.
That's
So I think the Italian meal leads to all of these things.
We should contact CNBC. You can get on TV and tell the world.
Maybe
about
I should be the Prime Minister of Italy.
it. You may be. We
Who
don't know.
knows?
Who knows? But you know, after the nap, you wake up and play cards, and you have sandwiches.
Right, of course, you start all over again.
Start again.
Well, this is from Vic and Verdoni. We're wishing you a happy holiday, and hope you like our little holiday planning tips, and we'll see you real soon. Vic Rallo and the Professor, Tony Verdoni.